To the Trude Sojka House Museum. This house belonged to my parents, Hans Steinitz and Trude Sojka, and it was built around the 1950s. So it's quite old and it has a very European style. So let's go inside to see our house museum.
We are next to a very unique room in this house, and it's a secret room, and we will see what is inside. Come with us.
By the way, this used to be just a bookshelf, and we have transformed it. When we remodeled the house, we transformed it into a door.
As you can see here, there are many pictures from different digital archives, and they represent the Holocaust. So this is our small Holocaust Memorial, this room. And you can also see here two sculptures of Trude Sojka that represent her experience during those terrible times. Like the dead bird, because Sojka means the bird in a kind of bird, a jay in Czech. On the other side, you will see there is a mother with her child, and it represents the baby that Trude Sojka lost during the Holocaust.
We should not forget that in the middle of this room there is a phrase taken from Anne Frank's diary. And in spite of everything, I still believe in the inner goodness of man. It's really a message of hope. And we think that Trude Sojka believed, as Anne Frank, had hope in mankind. This is Trude Sojka's studio, where she used to work, and we have kept it very much like it used to be when I was growing up in this house. The same table, the same paints, etc. The most interesting thing, perhaps, is how she used to work with music.
She especially loved Czech music and the classics like Dvořák, Smetana, etc.
In this wall we have some examples of Trude Sojka's first period. When she came to Ecuador, she started to paint and do sculptures. Her subject matter was the Holocaust. So all these are examples of the Holocaust period. Now on this side, on this wall, we have Trude Sojka's second period, when she came to Ecuador and she discovered this beautiful and diverse country. We call this period the encounter of two worlds, the world of Europe and the world of Ecuador and America. This work here is the phoenix bird. It's our logo, and it represents Trude Sojka because As you remember, Sojka means a bird in Czech. And Trude Sojka, like the phoenix bird, was rising from the ashes to a new life after the Holocaust. This exhibit that we're entering now is called Expressionism, Colors That Dance. During this third period, Trude Sojka remembered what she used to be in Europe, an expressionist artist, influenced by Marc Chagall, by Cézanne, by Modigliani, etc. During this period, she did a lot of artworks that have to do with dance. Here we have some examples. And also, she did very many abstract paintings, like the ones on this side.
So there are three main sculptures in this room. The first one is duality. It's the profile of an Indian, an Ecuadorian Indian, but it has two sides. The one is a woman and the other is a man. Now here you can see the dancer, and it's very special because it shows how Trude Sojka worked with recycling, and I think this is something that she learned during the Holocaust, not to waste anything. And so surprise, this is made with a clutch disc. And you can see how she transformed the ugliness of something unuseful into a beautiful figure. And finally, here we have the reconciliation. As you can see, this long shape is two people that are hugging, and this is a very symbolic sculpture because Trude Sojka used to tell us that in this way, with this precise sculptures, she managed to forgive herself.
Okay, this is our second temporal exhibit concerning the fourth period in Trude Sojka's art. It's called Fulfillment and Tenderness. The circle closes. Here we have several paintings and sculptures that have a subject matter, childhood, and animals, and games, and fairy tales. At the end, almost of her life, Trude Sojka remembers her childhood, everything she did in Europe, and she becomes like a little child herself. And actually, we can see how happy Trude Sojka was at the end of her life. There is one painting in particular that shows fulfillment. It's the woman in blue. It's a happy woman dancing, perhaps in the sea, and she is surrounded by light.
Now here in this room, you can see some documents and objects that represent the life of the Steinitz Sojka family. And first of all, you have this place where we keep this very important document that is a note that Walter Sojka, so Trude Sojka's brother, wrote to try to find Trude and her whole family. And she, thanks to this little paper, she came to Ecuador and knew her brother was in Ecuador. And then in this side, these are the objects that represents what Walter Sojka used to do in Ecuador, and he founded the Industria Saquios. Saquios is Sojka upside down, and it was the first handicraft shop in Ecuador. And it was exported all over the country. And Trude Sojka, perhaps it was her first job here in Ecuador, to make handicrafts for Aquios. And it was a very huge contribution of the Sojka family to the country in general. Unfortunately, the Aquios was burnt in 1975.
When we designed the Trude Sojka Cultural House that is now our museum, we were thinking that my parents were the generation of silence, because as many other Holocaust survivors, they never ever talked about their experience. There was always silence. The second generation, my sisters and myself, we, I think, were like the generation of questioning. We were always asking questions. What happened? Why did this happen? We never got answers. But then there is the third generation. It's my daughter Gaby. And she was always trying to find the answers. So we have in our third floor an exhibit that was done by Gabriela, third generation.
So as you can see, the exhibit is called Improntas de Nadie, no one's footprint, and it's in fact a series of artworks with different techniques that show how I feel as the third generation, as a grandchild of two Holocaust survivors. And as my mom said, my grandparents never talked about it, and I was a little bit lost about what to feel of my identity. And through these artworks, I explored my roots, as you can see in these paintings with earth. And I also explored the footprints in itself, and I want to record the footprints of the past, and at the same time put my own footprints to the future, so the memory is passed on and transmitted. And I think this is perhaps one of the main objectives of this museum as well. And the exhibit is based the title especially, and how it started. It is based on a porcelain book of poems. Porcelain was a Holocaust survivor and also a poet, and it's called No One's Rose. So that's why the exhibit is called No One's Footprints.
Here we have another small room to remind us that although the Holocaust was a genocide, unfortunately, in our world, there are still a lot of genocide going on all the time. Here, we have to remember that memory is a universal guardrail where we keep the facts of the past. And so, we are keeping in this guardrail dresses and clothes that symbolically belong to victims of other genocides, such as this one, a dress belonging to a woman that died during the Armenian genocide. Or this one, some clothes belonging to the Christian genocide by the Nazis. The idea is that if you put yourself in the clothes or in the shoes of others, you might try to understand the other better, to lose the fear or the anger that the other one will feel against you, for example, and this will help in the construction of peace. And this is our last room. It's a room that is devoted to remember my father, Hans Steinitz, who was also a Holocaust survivor. Here we have a reconstruction of his desk and of how he used to work at home. In this room, we're also remembering the righteous among the nations, because one of them, José Ignacio Burbano, who was consul of Ecuador in Bremen, saved my father's life. José Ignacio Burbano gave my father a visa so that he could travel to Ecuador. Also, in this room, we have our family library. It's a library mainly containing books about the Holocaust and about the fine arts.
Thank you very much for sharing with us this virtual visit. We really hope you liked it, and we also hope that someday you will come to Quito and to this house museum and see it in real person and discover many, many other secrets that this house holds. Thank you.
But before we leave, we would like to show you a small surprise. This is our sculpture garden. Okay, thank you very much. I hope you liked this visit. Goodbye.